I'll call our meeting to
It
order.
was a comparison to Donald Trump.
And
You be good.
the good of heart, really good. Okay, are we in compliance with the open meeting law?
Yes, we are.
Okay, public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. If you wish to be heard, please give your name for the record. The matter of discussion as well as the amount of comment single speakers allowed may be limited. Anybody who wishes to be heard in this portion, please come forward.
Can I please give you this one?
I always forget the roll call because I asked you if we were at quorum. Please go ahead.
Chair Goodman,
Yes. Here.
Commissioner Feldman, Commissioner Coffin, excused, Commissioner Barlow, excused, Commissioner Brown,
That's it?
Commissioner Pike, here, Commissioner Martin, here, Commissioner Bryan, he's excused, Commissioner Stovall,
Present.
Commissioner Arnold, excused, Commissioner Singer.
Here.
Thank you. We have a total of 7.
Thank you. So everybody's nailed to the floor. Not me. Okay, so we will start with our senior financial analyst at the Las Vegas Finance Department. And
We have an item number 4.
we have an item on the floor.
Item number 4. It's the approval.
So
of the-
sorry, it's all right. I'm just anxious because we got the first step towards the Raiders today. And most importantly, got the LBCDA going and got more cops. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the final minutes of the regular meeting of July 18th?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. So motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Okay, see, I'm rushing through to make this. Ask your colleagues to be up. Very long. Rushing along. Okay.
Mayor, Commissioners, Joe Williams, City of Las Vegas Finance Department.
Report by Joe Williams, Senior Financial Analyst, City of Las Vegas Finance Department regarding the addition to the Las Vegas Centennial budget for fiscal year 2016-2017.
Joe Williams, Finance and Business Services. Again?
Give it one more try.
Joe Williams, Finance and Business Services, City of Las Vegas. Okay, for the year ended June 30th, 15, we ended the year with fund balance of $3 million. We carried that over to the next year. Our budget as of today is $1,592,101. Basically, that budget consists of all approved projects that carried over from prior years. So if you approve any new projects, the budget will change during the year. But as of today's date, that is the budget we have that carries over. We have expended for the 3-month period only $91,000, and $21,000 went to Aviation Nation, $12,000 to Las Vegas Natural History Museum, and I think that was to buy that painting, if I believe.
Yes.
And then $22,940 went to the Mob Museum for research program, and then we had some various other little projects. We collected for the first quarter $520,806 in revenues for the first 3 months of this year. Now, you asked me to find out some information on the plates, which I have done. I'll hand these out to you, and then we'll go over this. This is a listing of all the plates in the state of Nevada. It shows for the Centennial plates from inception. Right now, there, as of 6/36/16, there was 90,386 plates issued, or outstanding as of that time. Yeah, it's 90,386. The total funds generated from that plate is $21,089,000. So, and you can see by the breakdown of the years, I have underlined it in yellow, of how we've done for the years. And if you can see, it is the #1 plate in the state of Nevada since inception.
And continue to keep growing.
And yeah, it's still doing well. We averaged last year, or around about $498,000 was the average for last year's revenues, and we're above last year's a little bit in the first quarter. Here's a document I got from the Commission on Special License Plates. It lists the requirements to get a special license plate. It lists all the plates that are outstanding. It lists what you need to do if you want to get a new plate and the plates that are no longer issued. So if anybody's interested in this, I can email you a copy of this. But it's quite informative. Basically, the plate's doing well, and I hope that's the information you wanted. That's about all I could find out.
That's pretty exceptional.
Yes.
Stoll, for the record, one of the questions we asked was whether or not the number of plates that drop off or the renewing rate, is it a high renewing rate, or is this number just reflected with the increase in population? I guess we're trying to figure out how many we lose and how many are fresh plates.
That I don't know the answer for. I will call and see if I can find that out for you.
What percentage are renewing?
Yeah. This is Louise Houghton for the record. One of the things I'm noticing is that in fiscal year 2016, you can see going from the beginning, every single year it's increased, and it's increased even this year is the most we've sold ever.
And so only a quarter.
Yes, that's really remarkable. So I think that that's showing that we're not having people drop off, certainly.
Right. Right, at least a high number not dropping off.
Right.
It'd just be interesting to see.
And
So
if
the
you
state
look at
plate didn't hurt us at all.
Right there, if you look down at item number 45, which shows this as Centennial, which we were of great concern. Look at that.
The other thing that's nice is we're not the only ones that see this. Folks in Carson City also see that this stands out. There's $21 million.
Well, and so a total since what was the year this began, 98?
2001 legislative session, I think, that's when we got it.
What was then from 98?
Well,
No, that must have been that range.
it's a range. What they did is from 98 to 90 or 2004, they just combined the totals in there. So ours was in earlier years, and so it's in that total. So I think that's probably 3 years for us.
That's all the more reason why this long-range plan that we're into is how we've been spending the money and what our future looks like. Yes, members.
Just take one more time to say thank you to Louise Helton for
Yes.
coming up with the plate number.
Yeah, that
But
was
it
genius.
was the group of us, the genius was picking the icon, Bob Stovall.
Isn't that nice, Sharon?
I know.
So, any comment? Was there more on your report?
No.
I mean, this gives us such great feelings
Yes, it
that
does.
even probably the rest of the report need to do anything.
I'll try to find out what the renewals were versus the new plates issued to see what we're doing.
And do we also, would you have it, or would Esther have it, the list of every penny that's been spent since '05?
We have a list.
I mean,
Esther.
legible, that's something that we could see.
You want to-
By year, can we have a comparable?
Yep.
So we can compare these, what we spend each year? Because I know in looking to the future, and I mentioned it to Marcella today and to Esther in the earlier meeting, that while we look very flush just for the quarter, because of this long-range plan that we're going to have, and some ideas that are out there of where we can really delve into the historic value of the city of Las Vegas. So this is really an exciting day. Any questions for Joe?
Just one question, Stoll, for the record. I think if we could get that updated list of how we spent the money over the years in advance, of the strategic planning, so we'd have that document to review and think about how we would want to spend money in the future. It would be helpful. I mean, you submitted one in the past, but maybe it's an updated version.
Yeah, I think I just need to add the few that we approved at the last meeting, and whatever we approved today, then I'll add that to the list and send it back to everybody.
We have a question on this.
Okay, if I could ask just before you ask on that, are these in categories, the expenditures that we've made over the years? Okay.
Yes, thank
So
you
that will
to Commissioner Stoddall, who made me spend many hours putting them in categories. We, and I don't know if I can remember right now, we did an overall list of everything that we've spent, and then we did some in film projects. Yeah, we have 3 different categories from a meeting that we had last year and talked about 3 different categories to look at. And I can't really like.
Yeah, we also cleaned
right now,
up,
but
we
but
got
it
the
was-
money.
Building,
Yeah.
buildings and things like that. Okay, please continue on. You had more questions? or-
Just a couple. How much money is unencumbered right now?
Basically, unencumbered is $2 million.
That's a $2,092,000.
Right, now that's if you, the commission wanted a $500,000 reserve. If you say the reserve's encumbered, that leaves us $2 million.
So theoretically, I mean, we have $2,005,000 if we spent the reserve.
Correct.
And if we don't authorize any additional funding for the rest of the year, we would have 2 more quarters of about $400,000.
Well, you have 3 more quarters.
3 more quarters.
Between, I'd say, probably 490,000 to 500.
Anybody's listening in here, I think we have all this money to spend, and they not have. We got plans.
So you could have possibly 1.2 to 1.5 million more.
And the last question up on the far column, remaining budget says $2,000 interest income. What kind of interest rate do we have?
Well, we don't have much, and what happened in the past is we used to get a little bit of interest, but because of the way our banking is with Bank of America, they pretty much give us right now, the citywide, they cut our rates down on banking, so they kind of cut our interest down. So basically, the interest that we budgeted has been used to pay for the fees for our banking with B of A. Now, when that runs out, we may get some, interest and then have some fees we'll have to pay B of A. But right now, it's kind of a wash.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions from members? I take a motion to accept the reserve.
This is just a report.
Does report, don't need to, okay. I tried to go ahead. Thanks, Joe. Okay, exciting times and gratitude on agenda item 6, report by Louise Commission to the Las Vegas Centennial Commissioner regarding the strategic plan for the Commission to the Las Vegas Centennial and discussion for possible action to allocate funding in an amount not to exceed $15,000 to hire a strategic plan facilitator.
Thanks to the fabulous work of Terry Ponticello and a couple other people within the staff. Do you want to say their names out loud, Terry? Esther Enke? Yes, Esther. Pam Hoffman. Thank you.
From Purchasing and Contracts Division, the City of Las Vegas.
Yes, so they were able to send out bid requests to several really excellent potential facilitators, and then the subcommittee was able to review those submissions, and we found 3 very qualified groups to consider, and we selected Deborah Campbell's proposal. Deborah Campbell, for everybody who doesn't know about it, you can stand up for a minute because everybody knows who you are.
Congratulations.
I've met many of you or worked with many of you over the years.
You don't
Thank
need much of
you.
an introduction, that's for sure. But Deborah's qualifications seem to stand out because there's not many groups that are in our good fortunate situation of being able to give away money. Usually you're sitting on a board that's trying to get money. And so for someone to have the understanding and knowledge of what it's like to be on our side of the fence to actually gift money, there's not that many people who have that experience, and Deborah does because of all the years that she worked in United Way. And she has a lot of other fabulous things on her resume. It makes her very qualified to do this. I've had experience with Deborah, and I'm looking forward to working with you if this is passed by everyone. But that was the recommendation from our committee, was that we're bringing before this august group of fabulous folks today, is that we would like to submit Deborah Campbell's application for her submission to our request for proposal as the one that we go forward with. Any questions?
Commissioner Brown, I've worked with Deborah over the years, and she's facilitated almost everything that we've been involved with, sometimes for pay and sometimes just out of the goodness of our heart, because she knew that the organization really didn't have money, and I would make a motion that we accept Commissioner Dustin's recommendation.
Second. A couple questions.
Please.
On page 2, and it's really not so much for Deborah Campbell. On page 2, there's a project deliverable, and several of the bullet points. For example, bullet point 2: determine buckets of types of projects the commission would like to fund, including dollars for each budget bucket. My question is really, what governs us? We have the NRS, which says we need to spend the money in relatively broad categories, but dealing with history, historic preservation. We can set our own rules about saying we want to spend 35% of the money on restoring buildings, historic buildings, 35% on film project. We have the authority to do that. We can. Yes.
Terry Ponicello, Member Stodoff. In looking at the legislation and also looking at the legislative history, there are no definitive regulations that have been adopted by the legislature to tell us exactly where to spend, other than to notate what is in that particular statute.
Okay.
And the overall high-level area that the funds must go into is to commemorate the founding of the city of Las Vegas through historic preservation projects and then other examples. The city of Las Vegas itself has also been the recipient of certain funds where the legislature has allocated or designated certain funds to be given to the city of Las Vegas. And then from there, the city of Las Vegas has to come up with a policy, regulations as to how to divvy up the money. So unless we want to go back to the legislature and tell us and have them, I believe it is within the statute itself, the enabling statute that gives it to the city of Las Vegas to determine how to spend those funds, as long as you serve the purpose of that statute, the intent of that statute.
Great, that's helpful, so we can move on. Then bullet point 1, 2, 3, special RFP projects the commission would like to direct in addition to grants. I don't understand what that is.
Well, this is Louise Felton for the record. In our subcommittee conversation, some of the things that we were talking about is, at this point, we've just waited for people to come and ask us for money. We haven't directed any preferences about where that would go. And so, for example, it would be a possibility that we could say, we would like to have more students involved in doing projects. So we could actually put out an RFP that would specifically ask for a high school student in the Valley to do a short video on any aspect of Las Vegas history that you care to name, anything that we find missing. We've got a lot of things that people have asked to do, but what's missing? There's things that people haven't asked to do, and things that we might think would be appropriate for us to solicit someone to do for us. So it helps us, I think, be better stewards, to not just hope that the best opportunities come to us from the community, but to actually use some strategy in directing some of those funds so that we do have a continuum of historic information in the different media and covering the time periods and the specific topics that we think would be critical to have.
Wow, that's great. Then the next bullet point
Excuse
is...
me if I might, Carolyn Goodman, you're meaning then being proactive.
Correct,
Rather than
correct.
just reactive to the requests.
Correct. Which gives meaning to the front end of some of the things that the exercises Deborah will lead us through as far as what is your vision. You know, when you look at what we could accomplish, if someone, nobody knew when we first started this, that someone would say, you know, that we would be gifted with this largesse. Now that we know that that largesse is possible, it's like, okay, now what should we do with it? If somebody said, I'm going to give you $22 million to spend over the next 10 years, what would you do with it? And what difference would you like that $22 million to make? And so having the opportunity to do that, I think is incumbent upon us as part of our good stewardship of these funds.
Help me understand, determine if the commission would like to provide set-asides?
That would be categorized.
Oh, okay.
Categorized.
And then the next one is discuss funding mechanisms for growth and sustainability.
Like one of the things we don't do and never have done is promote ourselves or promote people to buy the license plate. So it could be that, you know, part of the things that we need to do is to come up with ways of making sure that we continue to sell these plates so we continue to have the money, but then also look at any other ways that we can structure everything so that it is more sustainable. I mean, maybe we would want to set aside an endowment. I don't know. You know, this is the things that are possible.
Then the last one is that all sounds wonderful, is when we want to accomplish this, and I'm just concerned that January the legislature meets and they may have different ideas about how to spend this money. So when do we hope to have, under this plan, an agreed upon with a public meeting and those things, a new and updated strategic plan?
Well, I think that the timeline that we have would get us there by year end, even if we don't have the fine points. And Deborah, please don't fall through the floor.
I'm sitting here going, you're revising my stuff. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, Terry Ponticello, Assistant City Attorney. The general plan is, after today's vote, is to go forward with the hiring of the facilitator.
That's step one.
Step one. Thereafter, the facilitator's plan was to meet individually with each commissioner, and then most importantly after that, there will be a strategic planning session, about 4 to 5 hours, and then the final presentation of the
Fabulous Alan Feldman has offered me as the place we would hold this meeting.
correct.
The arena?
Yes. It'll be set up for boxing.
And if all goes well, the final presentation of the strategic plan will be presented to the Centennial Commission at its November meeting, November 28th.
This year.
This year.
November 28th?
All right, we have a lot to do.
Our last meeting is November 28th.
Thank you.
Is anybody going out of town for any period of time between now and then? Please let Esther know, so we get a 5-hour sort of retreat you're expecting? Okay, that's very nice of you. Thank you very much.
We have a motion and a second.
Yes, but I'd like to ask a question, if I could. It's Carolyn Goodman. In the operation of this Centennial Commission, which we make a decision that management of the city is opposed to, are we independent, and does this commission make that decision, or does the city overrule?
On the strategic plan, no.
or on any, we have our plan in place and we've decided we are going to, who knows, refurbish something for the whole $2 million. That's our decision out of this board. Can management come in from the city? Is it the city's money or is it the commission's money?
It is the city of Las Vegas's money, which is received by the city treasurer, but by resolution of the city council, the Centennial funds were transferred to the commission for the Las Vegas Centennial for the purpose of dispersing and expending the funds with the intent of the statute.
So the entire authority, again, Goodman continuing, the authority vests in the membership.
Correct.
And cannot be overruled by,
The only hiccup is that as a checks and balance, there is an operating agreement which allows city staff to provide services, so on and so forth. However, for any contracts that obligate the Centennial Commission over $100,000, it must be ratified by the Las Vegas City Council. And that is the same requirement for city parkways and all the other affiliates, nonprofits.
thank you.
Mayor, can I just go back really quick, Mr. Ranky? Just in answering your budget question and our categories, and this may help give you an idea as we move forward into the strategic plan, the exercise that Commissioner Stovall, and actually the board, it came from everybody last year, mostly you. But we did do categories, so we have, and it's kind of how we redid the Centennial grant application, was following these categories. One is outreach and education, so any event, presentations, lectures, walking towards publications, interpretive markers, anything like that that we funded went into that category. Then our next category was research and documentation, so any historic building assessments, historic resource surveys, designation collection, archives, oral histories, anything like that went into that category. And then the last category was preservation of historic objects, artifacts, that kind of stuff. So like the neon signs on stick, the Moulin Rouge signs went into that category. So I've got a listing of everything that we've tracked from 2005 that we've spent up to date on an overall spreadsheet, and then they're also broken into those three categories. So I will update that and get it out. And that may help us to kind of look
At
at
least you have a starting point.
the plan. Yeah.
Do something different from what
My question is we've had this name Deborah Campbell bantied about, but we have not heard from this person formally. I was wondering if we could hear from this person. Is she here?
You know, I have to disclose that we used to banter all the time back in the
You have to
80s.
say who you are
Oh,
before anything.
I am sorry.
Praise you.
My name is Deborah Campbell, representing Deborah Campbell and Associates. I think many of you have read the proposal, and I'm just really pleased to be able to work on this project. I've been in Southern Nevada since 1981, and one of the first people that I met was Bob Stoddall. I was working at the competing station, and we used to have a lot of fun going back and forth. And just a little quick thing, we used to have one camera, do you remember that, in the courtroom, and with all different stations. So there were a lot of games that we played to see who was going to get what down first and get it on the air, right? You remember. But I'm really pleased to be able to lead this process. I think at the end of the day, you know, I meant what I said. You know, I wouldn't have put in there if I didn't mean it. But I've chosen to live here in Southern Nevada since 1981. A lot of people come as reporters and leave, but I stayed and set up a business, had two wonderful careers, United Way and St. Rose Dominican Health Foundation, and even more than that, raised my daughter here. And that's something that I'm very proud of, and she's doing great things. And I also say all the time when I'm on the plane, stop bagging on Vegas, you know, because we've got a lot going on here and continuing to do so. So just wanted to say that for the record. In this strategic planning process, I'll make sure, I think the way to jumpstart it is to have individual meetings by phone or in person. And I'll ask everyone the same questions, and I use that as a way to start out the session so we can save about 3 or 4 hours, in that session. So that's pretty much the process that I usually take. I will be asking, and I'm looking forward to meeting Esther, and I assume Louise is the chair of the subcommittee? Okay? And I'd like to do that as soon as possible. The one thing, and Mayor, I guess we just need to push folks to choose a date as soon as possible for us to get together for the half-day session. And then I'll work around that. And then it's going to be, full steam ahead to be able to get to that meeting in November with the overview of what the plan looks like. And then a separate piece of it as well is we'll be, once it's approved, putting together a camera-ready piece, something beautiful and cool, but not too wordy, that you could use, to track yourself and also maybe even include, in those requests for proposals so people can understand, what this commission's about, what the vision is, and what we're working toward.
Well, it sounds very exciting. Would you like to make a motion, therefore? Seconded.
I seconded it.
Thank you.
I'll just call for the question.
Seconded, and just call for the question. All, Member Brown, seconded by Mr. Smith. And call for the question. So all in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Great.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously. We welcome you on. Don't go away so fast.
I'm going to stay.
Okay, well, just wanted, do you have any constraints as far as your calendar? Because I think...
Oh, yes, that's why I wanted to hear, I've got a few other contracts.
All right.
So-
This outward from the 28th of November.
Next month.
Okay.
So what's as soon as we get hold of the session?
Yeah, what's the soonest? And do you do it on a
So you want
weekday,
to
a
call
weekend?
Everybody first, and those who are missing. So how much time do you need for that?
I can get on this right away. So I would say probably maybe 2 weeks out and further.
Like the week of the 7th of November? Is that what you're thinking?
That week?
Or the week of the 1st of November?
Let's do the planning session the following week if we could.
The week of the 7th?
Yes.
So Deborah, what I can do is email you everybody's email so that you can get with them each, and then
I could do that.
I can help you if you want to get to.
So usually I use it's an internet thing, a doodle poll, and then you'll be able to see each other's responses. Block out a half day, and I'll just leave out the dates that I'm already committed.
Okay, we'll look tentatively, the week of the 7th as a tentative date.
And the 11th is a holiday.
What's going on the 8th?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Absolutely nothing.
I mean the 28th.
I got you, November 8th. Okay.
Okay, I would like to, Carolyn, knowing, in looking at everybody that's here, wherever you're coming from, with all your generosity, we thank you so much, Mr. Feldman, but is City Hall an easier place to convene, which we could use any of our conference rooms or the conference room in the mayor's office on the 7th floor?
Or Cashman
here.
Field.
Or Cashman Field, unless it's being leveled.
And Mayor, I have a question. Daytime, evening, weekends, does it matter?
Mayor, let me ask Frankie. This is going to have to be, because we're bringing everybody together, it's going to have to be a posted open meeting, so we will have to do it here in the clerk's office. We need to set a date because we're going to have to post an agenda tomorrow. We need to make sure that we've got a room, but we will have to do it here at the clerk's office, so we've got all of our equipment. So we need to set a date for the strategic plan, post that, and then I think November 28th, because I don't have much right now for that agenda. It may just be to go over the strategic plan and finalize it. So, right.
So do I understand, we need to pick a date now?
That's what I'm hearing you say.
Meeting.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
going
for the
to
strategic plan.
Everybody get your calendars
Can we
out.
say
Let me email,
I like that.
let me
The ninth.
get with the clerk's office to find out what's available in here. And then maybe, Debbie, you can help me get a couple of different days. And then I'll send out to you and we'll just have to.
So before the 28th, it's possible the week of the 7th is what we're hearing, that instead of being at MGM, would be here. And is morning running, like an 8:30 start better, and then concluding at 2, or is it better to start at 1 and be here into the night, like the legislature?
My brain cells are better at 8 in the morning than they are
agree.
at
The
2.
schedule is better in the afternoon.
Yeah.
There's a lot that week.
And also the following week, if I could.
14th, is that this bad a week?
The 14th is always getting us really close to the 28th because we're going to have to post the agenda for the 28th that week.
And council that week. And what we could do.
Esther, what do you need other than the agenda item? Do you need the documents as well?
Basically, the
Is your
agenda.
whole week dead?
No.
No, the 15th isn't, but
Tuesday the
it's the only
15th?
day that week that I'm in town.
Tuesday's good.
Tuesday the 15th?
I may have BCC, but I don't know if I have an item on that.
We're talking the 8th or the 15th.
15th.
Tuesday the 15th, sounds good, in the morning at 8:30?
No, I got Pilates, but
You're not kidding, are you?
No, he's
Tuesday,
You go with
November
this guy?
15th, 8:30 a.m.
Yeah, here,
Yes, here in the clerk's office room.
if that's good.
15th, 8:30?
Yep, I will, if, depending on what time we get out of this meeting, I will get it on everybody's calendar, if not tonight, first thing in the morning. And then I think everybody already has November, I can't see, 28th on your calendar right now. You should have the 28th as a 3 PM board meeting, but I'll send that reminder out to you. And then Deborah, I'll just work with you on what our agenda item is going to be for the 15th.
Sure.
What I'd like to
Got a lot of
ask,
work to do.
if we could, Deborah, what do you think, and Louise, having been working through this, how long a meeting should we block calendar?
4 to 5.
From 8:30?
To 12:30.
Let's do 1:30 and try to get out an hour earlier.
All right, so 8:30 to 1:30.
food's better at the MGM.
So is the service.
Can we do that too?
There's box.
Doesn't matter, my taste buds don't work that early.
And may I add one more thing? It's just critical. I will reach out to everyone within the next day or so to please respond so that I can schedule a time to visit with each one of you for 30 minutes, either by phone, if I can't pin you down, or in your office. Because most of the work, I find in strategic planning, facilitating, 3/4 of it happens between now and the date that we will meet as a group.
So Esther can get you that email and cell phone?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Don't have cell phones, I'll send you emails.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all, congratulations, welcome on board.
Thank you.
We're excited on this.
Great job.
Okay, we move on to the number 7, are we into 7?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
report
we
to
are.
Jonathan Ullman. I didn't know that, Jonathan with an O-N?
No, it's
It's
A.
a typo, okay, please.
It's okay.
Mayor,
It's okay.
President and CEO of the Mob Museum, and Jeff Schumacher, Director of Content of the Mob Museum, regarding the final Mob Museum grant. How are you?
Hello. I'm Jonathan Allman, Executive Director and CEO of the Mob Museum. Also presenting with me to my right is Claire White, who manages our educational outreach program. We have with us Jeff Schumacher, who is our Director of Content, man behind all of our wonderful exhibits and programs. And At the controls of our presentation is Kimberly Kindig, who's our Director of Strategic Partnerships. We give Kimberly a moment to, there it is, all right. So, and you each have in front of you a folder, a brown-colored folder that has this presentation deck and other materials relating to our educational outreach program. I want to start off just reminding the Commission that it was in August of 2015 that we came to you first with this concept of how we could go out into the community and provide programs that would be of value to the teachers and students, primarily within the Clark County School District, and in many respects as a means for us to get out in front of students who, for financial reasons, were not likely to ever be able to visit the museum. Thanks to the support of the Commission, we were able to create this educational outreach program. We're not here today asking for any additional funding. This is strictly to tell you how our project went, and give you a progress report, and to extend our gratitude to the Commission. And I also have to say to Esther, who's just been phenomenal to work with over the course of this project, tolerating many questions from us. So thank you, Esther. And probably the best way to give you a flavor for this program is through a short video. So we're crossing our fingers that...
We have sound. We have takeoff.
They hit mute on the wall.
This new program introduces students to the history of Las Vegas, prohibition, organized crime, and law enforcement through a variety of unique presentations. Trained museum educators, travel...
Oh, right-hand corner, please. In their little speaker thing.
Bring content to life, immersive, interactive lesson plans.
I think my favorite part
That's
of
all,
the
yeah.
presentation is the keys and the postcards. There's this awesome aspect that's supposed to look so exactly like what you did. I've never seen anything like that. The kids are engaged in this history. They're reading a lot of history about Nevada. It's a little bit more in depth than just reading about it.
Students use common core line strategies to interpret primary sources, differentiate curriculum, teachers discuss topics and activities.
It aligns with our Nevada history standards that we're able to learn, especially about the Great Depression and the impact that Hoover Dam had. This presentation, so what I would really love I think, yeah, pretty cool.
For more information, visit us at themonmuseum.org.
There you go. So this was, you may recall, was a project that was funded at the order of $76,000 from the Centennial Commission. We'll get into how that money was spent in a moment. But before we get there, I want to turn it over to Claire White, who is the star of the video and really the star of this program.
Thank you. Claire White. The first thing I want to do before I start talking is actually pass around some of the objects that we pass around to the students because they are the real star of the show. So the first thing is this is like the DARE program of the 19th century. This is an anti-alcohol textbook that students received as young as age 8. Everything I brought today is related to prohibition in some way or another. So this is a prescription for medicinal alcohol. It was prescribed for diabetes, which we all know is definitely helped by alcohol. I have some 1930s fingerprint cards from a man of multiple aliases in Detroit. No one famous, but he was related to the bootlegging and criminal scene in Detroit in the 30s. And then the last thing are some campaign and prohibition propaganda buttons. So the last time that we came and presented, I brought some objects from our one of our Las Vegas trunks, and I thought it was important to bring some of our Prohibition objects today. Where the project stands today, so we've had the opportunity to visit 29 schools and youth groups around the valley between February and August of this year. And we right now have 6 different trunks full of objects that help us tell one of 9 stories. In your packet, we have a brochure. It's the yellow and white and black brochure that gives you a little bit more information about the presentations that we offer. We're having a lot of fun. We are still in the process of training all of our educators to make sure that they are all prepared to go out to the schools. But we've had a lot of success. I think it's been a really exciting program. The majority of the students that we've had the opportunity to visit are elementary school students. We've seen 2,700 kids during the pilot phase. And I think, the conversations that I hear you having as you're passing around the objects is sort of the exact goal of the program. We're trying to really encourage students to think about history in creative and fun ways, and I think that we've had the opportunity to do that with a good number of people. So moving forward, some of the things that we are still working on. So we've already been to 3 schools this school year, and going into the end of October and through the rest of the fall and winter we've got a lot more scheduled. We have actually 59. I scheduled 5 more presentations from the time this PowerPoint went to print. So we're doing good. We are still training staff. We've got a lot of educators, and with 9 different presentations, it's definitely still a lot of work to make sure that everyone is comfortable with all of the content. We're continuing to market and reach out to schools. We sent a big mailing to almost every school in Clark County School District, and then in November we'll be sending out another mailing out to private and charter schools. Once we get the majority of the Clark County School District scheduled, we figured reach out to everyone else that we haven't had the opportunity to yet. And we're continuing to expand the materials available. For all 9 of the presentations, the goal is to have pre- and post-visit materials that the teachers can use in the classroom before and after our educators go out. So that's sort of an ongoing process. And then the last big ongoing process is outfitting our expedition to look like a real surveillance van, and kids will be able to interact with video surveillance, wiretapping, and fingerprinting technology inside of our mobile unit that we can take out to schools and out to youth groups. And that is, there's a picture on the slide prior of what our vehicle looks like on the top left there, and it's been a big help for us going out on the road, and we're continuing to update it. So that's a little bit about where we are and what we've done and what we've accomplished so far. So I'm going to turn it back over to Jonathan. I'm really excited with what we've accomplished, and I want to thank all of you for making it possible. It's been a wonderful opportunity, I think, to reach out to families and students that we wouldn't have had the resources to do so.
And I have to say, this is Jonathan Allman again, that we have to thank all of you for Claire White, because if it wasn't for the funding of the commission, again, we received the grant in August of 2015. It was later that month that we hired Claire because of that funding, and she is absolutely a rising star in our organization, so we're grateful for that. Looking at the investment slide in the presentation, just to remind you, it was August 2015 that we received the funding. That funding was in the amount of $76,000. The total first-year cost of this project was just over $100,000, so it was $102,000 and change. That initial funding from the Centennial Commission was supplemented by additional partner support, so we received another private sponsorship for the program, as well as putting in $21,000 of Mod Museum funds for the initial period. So what we did during that August 2015 up to this past summer was hire staff, create the curriculum that's included in the packet here, and then prototype the visits out to the schools last spring. So we are now, if you look at that pie chart that says total project cost of $98,000, that is for the 2016-2017 school year, during which this is no longer using any Centennial Commission funding. This is funding that is half Mob Museum, and then the other half coming from a variety of sources, other private entities such as Bank of Nevada. We received a foundation grant from the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation. We've received some in-kind support. For example, the vehicle came from Jim Marsh Kia. So we've been cobbling together other partnerships to make this project. Yes?
May I just say, I
Sure.
noticed in your presentation, the license plate you chose to put on that vehicle.
Oh, we're very careful about that. Which is, if we go to the next slide, that is an excellent segue to how the Centennial Commission is recognized, because we, again, this program would not exist without your support, and we make that clear on the website and all of our printed materials. It's on the van, it's in our press releases, it's in that video that we played for you that has had almost 10,000 views at this point. So we are certainly, as much as we have created the program, need to extend to our partners, and most importantly, the Las Vegas Centennial Commission, the credit for doing that. So we thank you. And
17 in the country, that is awesome.
Thank you for that. And before we go, just wanted to put out there, we continue to schedule school visits for the, really on a weekly basis, but we've identified a few dates here in the packet, and if these dates don't work and you're interested, we can always find other ones, but these were schools that we thought would be good examples and receptive to members of the commission, if interested, could come along with Claire or one of our educators and see a program as it happens.
For the record, Hugh Sinek. Claire, the kids I saw in the video look pretty young. Is that junior high level?
So those were fourth graders.
Fourth grade.
Mhm.
So is the goal junior high and above, or you're going down to elementary school?
So the goal is grade 4 and above, which is a little different from our original proposal. We found that even though there are junior high and high schools that are interested, that because of the Nevada history curriculum that they teach at the fourth grade, that it would have really... We would have lost out on a big audience if we had not included elementary school.
Claire, can you elaborate what's in that lesson plan?
Yeah, so the one that the one that I was presenting was all about Las Vegas and the Hoover Dam. So telling the story of how important the Hoover Dam was to the continued development of Las Vegas, and we show objects and postcards from that time period. Yeah.
Question on the, stole off with the record, on the list of topics from the temperance movement to prohibition and so forth. At the Mob Museum, the understanding one of the key elements is the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
But what's been occurring in the last few years around the world, the word massacre certainly doesn't have the sense. Does that? How do you deal with that in a classroom, or is there any pushback, or because the word certainly has a terrible sense. It always does, but I mean this. When you say St. Valentine's Day, you're talking historic and back, but now when you've got France and all around the world, or even Florida. So how do you deal with that? Or do you have to come up with it?
Yeah, that has not been one of the things that has come up, although there's definitely teachers who are very interested in how much we're going to delve into the organized crime aspect and just how violent things get. Everything is curriculum standards based, so we're teaching things that they should be learning according to state and national standards. And certainly at the elementary school level, we would not be teaching about the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. We try to bring in the organized crime and the law enforcement element as much as we can, but we also are telling stories that are almost secondary to some of the stuff in the museum. So when we talk about Prohibition, there's one that's all about the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, but we look at it from the perspective of ballistics. Our other presentations on Prohibition are mostly connected to sort of the cultural history of the time period. So we get the chance to talk about Al Capone and some of the heavy hitters, but we do it in a very age-appropriate and sensitive manner. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just wonderful, you've done a great job, and we're so proud to be us back at the city edition. And done a great job. Claire, what were you doing before you were hired by Jonathan?
So I grew up in Las Vegas, but I was, right before coming to the Mob Museum, living on the island of Nantucket in Massachusetts, working at the Whaling Museum, doing similar stuff to what I'm doing at the Mob Museum.
Wow, that's not a bad job. Well, we're lucky we have you.
Thank you.
Any good books you've got, there's so many.
Okay, I'll give you some recommendations.
Great.
These are, of course, different kinds of whales than we're used to.
Thank you all.
Thank you very,
Thank
very
you.
much. Okay. We have now a report by Assemblywoman Heidi Swank, Nevada Preservation Foundation, regarding the Beverly Green grant, and boy, does she do.
Good afternoon. My name is Heidi Swank. I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada Preservation Foundation, and I'm here just to give you an update on where we are on the Beverly Green Grant Project. We have some excellent news. We are very excited in Beverly Green. On September 21st, Beverly Green was named Las Vegas's second historic district. After 2 years of solid work, which may seem like a long time, but looking at other historic districts across the country, that's about where we are. It takes about how long it takes. Now that we've also hired our fabulous Education and Advocacy Director, Michelle, we are looking at finding ways to cut down that time, so hopefully in the future it won't take 2 years. So this grant was supposed to cover two historic districts within the larger Beverly Green neighborhood, one which was the Beverly Green Historic District, and the other which was going to be the Paradise Village Historic District. I did bring some materials from the Beverly Green campaign. This was our top 10 economic advantages of historic preservation, and we have 2 different versions of this, and we sent this out early on in the campaign as a way to try to get ahead of any questions and concerns about what historic preservation means and what it does. So I'll send these around. This one is for resident homeowners, so folks who own and live in the proposed historic district. And we also had these as a sheet in here with them translated into Spanish, so that we would be sure that everyone was getting the appropriate information. So I'll send that around. And then we have a similar looking document, but this is for investment owners. And that was one of the things that we really stressed, and we do this in every campaign, is we know that people own homes in possible historic districts for very different reasons. It may be their home they live in, or it may be an investment for them that they rent out. So we went and, again, developed another document that was sent out to folks who own houses in Beverly Green but don't necessarily live there. And one thing, if you look inside the cover here, you'll see the map of the historic district. So I'll send.
These are online. These are online.
They are not online, but we can definitely get them online easily enough.
Or just send us each one.
Mm-hmm. I sure can.
Thanks.
And then so we did that at the very beginning of the campaign, and then we had a neighborhood meeting afterwards just in which to answer a lot of questions. We did a lot of door-to-door knocking, about 8 different canvases that we did in the proposed historic district. I have to say that some folks in Beverly Green are really good at canvassing, and maybe I need to recruit them for my own campaign, because they could cover ground and get people on board like you wouldn't believe. One of the other things that we did, and I brought the copy of a similar mailer that we did for our Paradise Palms client, because we were very careful when we printed, especially expensive things, and we sent out every one of the ones for Beverly Green. But the Beverly Green, we did this right around the holidays last year. It was a holiday-themed one. It had, instead of having, the recipe for a great neighborhood here, had, Christmas cookies on it, and it had all of this information. And then with a tear-off, so that folks could send in their written support or opposition or request for more information through this little trifold flyer. So I'll send around the one from Paradise Palms only because I don't have, it's a very similar type of idea that we did there. So as I said, we got designated as of September 21st. One other part of this grant was to create a walking tour of the Beverly Green Historic District. That should be completed in the next couple of weeks. We're very excited about that. And we are hoping to hold that back for a little bit and launch it as part of our Home and History event that we'll be sponsoring on the last weekend of April next year. The last part of this grant was for the Paradise Village area. And the last time I came back here, I was talking to you about the difficulties we had with the majority rental owner district, and we have shifted to a National Register nomination because it doesn't require the 51% that the local register does, and we didn't have a lot of opposition, we just didn't have engagement. After 2 years, we needed 92 letters of support for the Paradise Village district, and after 2 years, we had 22 in support. We didn't have a lot of opposition, just not a lot of engagement. So this will give us a way to kind of maybe get people more engaged in that part of Beverly Green, and so we're hoping. We had a great intern this summer from Cornell's Historic Preservation graduate program, and she began the work on the National Register nomination for Paradise Village, and we should have that completed and submitted to the State Historic Preservation Office by the end of this year. So hopefully next year there'll be a National Register nomination. Out of this, we have also begun to collaborate with the UNLV Downtown Design Center to do something similar they did for the historic West Side, and come up with a plan for Paradise Village and El Centro and lots of areas kind of along that, kind of just off the Las Vegas Strip that are kind of distressed neighborhoods, to come up with a plan. We're talking about some neighborhood gardens where a building had gotten burned down, and we're looking at kind of ways that we can really reinvigorate that area, and then hopefully we'll be able to eventually bring that onto the local register too. We've gotten lots of great press. If you read the Las Vegas Sun magazine a couple of months ago, or about a month ago, there was a big story. Jackie Valley did an in-depth story on Beverly Green and on historic preservation in the Las Vegas Valley, which was great. We were on KNPR just last week. I just sitting here got a text from the Review Journal that they're interested in doing a piece. So we've had lots of good press. And I think that there's definitely a change in the air in Las Vegas as far as historic preservation.
Questions, comments? I was wondering, if I may, it's good then, anything about relocating or opening your offices in the historic West Side School?
We are in the process of kind of on that back and forth with the city to kind of figure out what the agreement is, but we would really love to be in the historic West Side. We think that the school would be a fabulous fit for us. It would also, as we'll talk about later when we bring our proposal, that for our heritage tourism event that we're doing in April, it would be the home base for that, so it would be a great way to bring people to the historic West Side and to get acquainted with it, because we would have all of our educational events for that program at the historic West Side. We also have a lot of programming that we do that bring in historic preservationists nationwide. We're doing one called Can Preservation Pencil, and we're bringing in folks from across the country in February, and would have that at the historic West Side. So I think it would be a great fit for us, and we could really do a lot to kind of promote that fabulous project.
Yes, it certainly is wonderful. But one other thing, did you get the notification about Chicago Joe's?
I did, and I actually stopped by. I was there the next day for lunch, and I left my card, and I'm going to check back. It's a great little house.
That's off the record. Any comments, questions?
Just, thank you. I mean, for all the work that the preservation does. A lot of people talk about it, but when this group gets involved, action, things take place, so it's,
Yes. Thanks. We love doing it. Yeah, we're very happy with what we do. So thank you for the support. We really appreciate it.
What year about? What is the car, a 54?
I think it's a 58 or 59 Belvedere.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember coming here when Donald's looked like in the 60s.
Okay, I have. It's a great house. Wow.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, agenda item 9. This one, discussion for possible action regarding a grant request by Jonathan Moore, Associate Professor of Cinema Arts at Vanguard University in person of 33 Films, LLC, in the amount of $30,000 for a short film examining the unique history of African American entertainers, performers, segregation in Las Vegas.
And then, I believe, it's her to make that presentation.
Hello.
Announce yourself.
Yes, obviously I'm not Jonathan Moore. My name is Corrigan Vaughn. I'm a co-producer on this documentary here. Unfortunately, Jonathan took ill and had to call me in at the last minute to come in and present to all of you. So thank you so much for having me and 33 Films here to discuss this. The documentary that we are requesting this grant for is tentatively titled Harrison House, A History of African American Entertainers in Segregation in Las Vegas. Obviously, sort of the history of West Las Vegas and African Americans and segregation and so forth is a sort of well-covered terrain by many wonderful filmmakers and scholars in this area. But upon visiting this area last year, Jonathan Moore, the director, sort of uncovered that there was this other history of these boarding houses that existed in Las Vegas at that time, and that these sort of sprung up as an entrepreneurial endeavor of people sort of trying to make do in Las Vegas at this point. So for a little bit of background on this, as I'm sure everyone in here knows, that with Las Vegas being segregated, a lot of performers were allowed to perform in the clubs, the casinos, and so forth, but were not actually allowed to then stay the night in the cities. So these boarding houses sprung up as places where these performers could actually stay on the outskirts of town, sort of in the middle of this African American community. And the Harrison House is the only extant one of these boarding houses to our knowledge at this point, and has been recently placed on the National Register of Historic Places. What we would like to do is sort of investigate the history of the Harrison House and find people who stayed there, people who were related to people who stayed there. Harry Belafonte is amongst people who's supposed to have stayed there. Sammy Davis Jr., we're in contact with his son, who has been interested in telling his story about this, and uncovering the people who were a part of this, what it meant for Las Vegas at this time to have this sort of segregation and to have these places that created a way for people living under this sort of oppression to actually take advantage of that in a sort of monetary way, I suppose. So the Harrison House was opened from 1942 to 1960, which, with the Moulin Rouge Agreement, obviously then sort of fell out and they didn't necessarily need this anymore. But since it's on the historic registry, we're able to go into the records of this actual place and figure out who stayed there. One of the other things that this place was used for often was people would come to Las Vegas for divorces, so they would stay in the Harrison House during that time. And so we're looking into records of people who were there for that reason. And we really want to preserve this moment and this particular form of African American entrepreneurship
before it's completely lost to history, because obviously having closed in 1960, there aren't a lot of people who are really a part of this, and there's so much that's unknown about it. Even people running the place, even historians around the area have not had the means to uncover the full sort of scope of what was happening at these houses. So the Harrison House will stand in for us as a representative for all of these boarding houses that existed at the time, and we really just want to make sure that that's something that isn't lost, because it's an important element of Las Vegas history and of the history of the United States as well, for African American culture. So that is essentially what we're doing, trying to make a short documentary, one that would be used for academic or educational purposes in schools and things like that, to teach a segment of history that is sort of one that hasn't been uncovered yet, and also to hopefully try to get onto sort of like public access, or not public access, but local PBS affiliates, and to tour festivals around the country to uncover this part of Las Vegas history as well.
Comments and questions?
Well, hold on for the record. An overview. Esther, one of the challenges that I've had for the last 2 or 3 meetings, or even more, is we get these film projects and they have different categories, different definitions, different costs. Some are the same, but they're called differently. It's really hard to look at the budget of these and see how the money is being spent, and whether or not, in fact, we should be the ones that should be the total funders of any of these projects. And I was hoping that part of this could come up during our strategic planning, that we would be able to come up with, out of that, a template that film producers could go through and see what we would pay for, what is not in, for example, do we pay for a publicist? We certainly have discussed in the past, when this has come up, we don't pay for premiere parties and alcohol and those kinds of things. And that's not, and then not directly to this issue. The boarding house story truly needs to be told, but not in some sort of mythological entrepreneurial shift. If you do any research, you will find that whether it's Harry Belafonte or Sammy Davis Jr., they were ripped off by this urine-infested boarding house. I mean, there are lots of negative stories about Harrison and a couple of the others, how these human beings, first of all, were taken advantage of by not being able to stay in the resort hotels, and then to be taken advantage of when they get over to the area. I mean, so I don't want to sit here and write a script or even be responsible for critiquing the script. But I'm not sure, and that's the secondary issue. I'm concerned about these couple of film projects we've got today, and I'd almost rather wait until we really have another 30 days, another 60 days before we really have an idea of how we want to spend some of this. I'm not sure whether that's an appropriate.
I think it's very wise, because we're trying to bend our heads above water and see where we're allocating. Now, the only other issues, I would say, is we have other individuals who've been working with us in Washington. I know Clayton White out at the university.
Yes, we're working with her as well. Yeah.
Replicate, to come up with something new, and for us to allocate funds, I think it almost would be wise for us to wait till after the 28th of November, and then if that works, where we know what we're doing better and have that, and off your suggestion.
Is there a way to obey this without, because I don't want to turn this down, but is there a way to...
Yes. And
I do want to say, just on the note of your entrepreneurship, yes, critique taken, and that obviously is something that we were planning on discussing, is those sort of, the element of, I think it's a dual thing where there was this black entrepreneurship element, but that, like you said, there really is this sense that people were ripped off in that way as well, which I could sort of put under that umbrella as well. Yeah.
In addition, Mayor,
Member Brown.
We have contributed to the Harrison House on several occasions. How is this different to the investments that we've already made there?
Yes.
And I think I would like to see what outcomes we had from some of the investments that we have previously made.
Sure. And we are not directly connected to the Harrison House, so it's sort of a separate thing from that. So I can't necessarily speak to what the Harrison House has been doing with the money that has been invested by this commission into it.
If I might
Yes.
interrupt you, I think it would be good if, in fact, it is the palette of the board here to obey this. It would give you time to sit down with Esther and find out where those dollars for Harrison House have gone. And it gives you a better look at this. And I know that when Member Stoddall was talking about, I saw you had travel and hotel and something else in there. And that's something, as we go forward with our strategic plan, is that going to be part of the formula?
Everybody, Esther Dranky, I can tell you we gave them $17,500 in, I think, 2015-16 for air conditioning and electric work. So it was to help to bring that house up to code.
But perhaps you can, if I might, Member Goodman here, meet with Esther at some point or give her a phone call. She can give you those details as a help.
Alan Feldman for the record. In a similar vein to how we will begin to look at these in the coming months, years, I know one of the filters that we use as we consider projects like this is distribution. Is there a very clear distribution plan? Or are we, and I'm saying this of all film projects, not yours, are we being asked to get the project filmed and then there is no certainty as to whether or not it will ever be seen? So I'm raising that in general, not about this specific project, but what I would ask of you, assuming that we do choose to obey this, is that maybe that's something you can add to this as we, so when we bring it up in the future, we can have that discussion about what is the plan that this can actually be seen.
And along with that would be,
I'd like to add, Deborah, to make sure that we have that component. I saw you writing that.
I'm taking notes. Thank you.
see, also the question would be that of ownership, whether or not we fund this, and then is it in essence public domain because it was funded with public money, or can it be turned around and then redistributed, so to speak, for a profit? I'm not opposed to any of that. I just would like to get a better understanding of once public funds are given, does that create the public ownership of the project to some degree? So I'd like to make a motion to obey.
Second.
We will need a date to obey it. We will need a date for the events.
We can actually have on your desks, everybody handed out to me, the meeting schedule after the turn of the year, which is much, does everybody have one, Esther?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So how about after?
January 24th,
I
2017.
don't think we're going to have everything in order by November 28th, so I'd like to make a motion to obey to January 24th, 2017.
And is that all right with you, Member Fowler?
Yes.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to obey this to after January 24th. All in favor, signify by aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Thank you, the motion carries.
Add Nat Code to that list, though.
What's that?
Add Nat King Code to that.
Oh, yes, Nat King Cole. That was on my list as well. Thank you.
And I'd highly recommend it right after the first of the year or after our November meeting, sometime in early December, see if that we came to a point that we have enough that we can entertain hearing you again.
Okay.
Because that have to be extended to March, which would be our next meeting. But you can find that out either through Esther probably. So thank you very much. for
Yes,
coming
thank
in.
you.
Wonderful. Okay, we will now move on to.
Your Honor, if I may, if the same situation is going to come up with item 13, and if we're going to hold that film in advance too, rather than have the applicant wait, I'd like to move item number 13 up to.
Madam Chair, we'll have to call it item forward.
Okay, so we'll call
Call
it
item
ball.
13 forward, and then ask for the motion.
Okay, we were not waiting, we're going to call agenda item 13 forward.
We can still sit there.
No, you can set.
Right, we have plenty of debate. And if you'll announce yourself for the record so we know who you are, so we don't know who you are, welcome back.
Hey guys, thanks for having me back.
Yes. Agenda item 13 is discussion for possible action regarding a grant request by Stan Armstrong, Desert Rose Productions, in the amount of $50,000 to create a further selection of vignettes celebrating African-American Great Nevadas.
Okay,
Hi, Mayor.
Mayor.
Thank you for having me. Stand
Excuse
on.
me, because we are just debating this, all you're going to do right now is make a motion to debate it to January 24th, right? We're not going to
Right,
hear.
no presentation, anything other than to have you say who you were. So if there's a motion,
I'd like to make a motion to obey this item as we did with the other film project until the January 24th meeting, 2017.
Second.
okay, a second, there are 2 seconds actually, number Belton. Thank you. All in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll see you January 24th. We might call Esther sometime in December and see if that's open.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Okay. So now agenda item 10? Yes. Okay, discussion for possible action regarding grant request by Dave Conrad Planner, City of Las Vegas, Department of Planning, in the amount of $117,875 to create and install 30 historical markers at the back of sidewalk along Charleston Boulevard to highlight the important historical sites in the area. From where to where? But you go ahead and announce yourself.
Sure, for the record. Dave Knoyer, City of Las Vegas, Department of Planning. And I'm here on behalf of Courtney Mooney, who is out of the office this month, requesting $117,875 for the West Charleston Historical Marker Project. So this kind of covers both well, to answer your question, the project will be from essentially Martin Luther King west to Valley View Boulevard. And so this project covers both grant categories of outreach and education, and then research and documentation as well. So we seek to create and install up to 30 historical markers at the back of sidewalk along West Charleston Boulevard, highlighting important historical sites throughout the area. So a recently completed oral history project conducted in this area by UNLV, Oral History Research Center, uncovered significant history about the area's early businesses and residents. And so we're looking for an historian or researcher who will utilize this information as well as conduct additional interviews and research and develop content for the historical markers or proposed historical markers along West Charleston Boulevard. And so the included sites along Charleston Boulevard include the boulevard itself, this is State Highway, and a western gateway into the city of Las Vegas. The dairy farm that used to be located along, I believe, where UMC is. Several of the nearby neighborhoods are also anticipated to be discussed in this marker program, including Wesley, Rancho Circle, Rancho Nevada, and Scott Shady's. And so the markers will also discuss architectural significance and important early, mid, and late 20th century residents of the area as well. General discussions will also include the overall development of Las Vegas and the growth of residential subdivisions primarily through the 1940s and the 1960s. There will be approximately 20 markers discussing specific historic sites and 10 overview markers that will discuss general development and historical context of the area as well. And so the markers are anticipated to be installed at key intersections with directional graphics and maps to guide visitors to various sites. And if funds are awarded at this meeting, requests for proposals for an historian to research and prepare marker content, as well as an RFP for a marker fabricator and installer will be released in December 2016, with contractor selection expected to take place in January 2017. The marker designs and then research content would then be planned to be completed by August 2017, and then the markers themselves would be anticipated to be installed by October 2017. So it's essentially a one-year project. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to you if you have any questions or comments.
If I may, just as Carolyn Goodman, who's responsible for the installation and the upkeep? The city?
The installation would be is proposed to be private installation, and then private funding. Yeah, it would be a private contractor. Oh,
who's paying the private?
That's part of the dollar amount requested through this grant.
And how about the upkeep over the next 30 years?
There is an upkeep in the budget. There is a upkeep request of $10,000. Thank you. $10,000
Annually or overall?
annually.
Okay, then.
Yes, Jane Pike, the record. I was following up on that question as well for the maintenance. So that $10,000 in traffic control and maintenance, that is being requested from this commission?
Correct, as part of the total grant dollar amount requested.
That's a one-time $10,000. So maybe I didn't understand. So that any upkeep after that, throughout the 30 years that those may be in place, replacement, abatement.
Correct. Potentially after that, that may be dependent upon the city's private maintenance, just depending on what happens with the markers, similar to the Centennial markers that are in place throughout downtown Las Vegas.
Could you refresh us on who takes care of the ones that are downtown?
Off the top of my head, I believe it's our operations and maintenance department.
Or code enforcement too?
So theoretically, after the first year, it sounds like the city then would absorb the expense of maintaining.
So this isn't an annual 10,000?
It's not.
Sorry, you're getting grilled there. I'm just trying to understand.
Sure. As far as I know, this is not anticipated to be an annual. It's a one time.
I'd like to ask Member Goodman, what participation is coming from the neighborhoods? What's being asked of the people who live in those historic neighborhoods to put something in?
That component is expected to take place during the research phase. We are anticipated to hire an historian who will then conduct oral research, similar to the research project that was just completed, I believe, by Clay T. White from UNLV, to develop any further stories from the neighborhoods, certainly, and identify some of the historic families that also that lived in the area as well. And so then that researcher would then reach out to those individuals and reach out to those families, and then obtain additional information and additional neighborhood information as well.
So your original ask here, Goodman, continuing, is basically for funding, because my pages are so stuck together. So many staples. Is for the researcher at this point? Isn't that the first step before you have your anything done or any costs really ascertained as to what this is going to be, to hire a researcher to do?
Sure, the researcher is the first step of this component. However, we have, and this can be, if the commission would like, this can be broken down into two phases. However, we've included the costs of the installation, fabrication, sign design, and then also the cost of the researcher as well to to conduct this and put together the history of the historic sites.
And if I may continue, how did you come to that fee or that salary for that researcher? Do you know that answer?
Unfortunately, I can't answer that. That was a figure that Courtney had put together for us. So I believe, though.
I think, just my personal opinion, until we have the facts, I debate it also. Maybe until, not
Sure.
your fault, but it seemed that the cost of hiring somebody to do the research and then that body that comes back here to have more crisp data on the monuments and what participation's coming out of each neighborhood. We've already done that surveying. I mean, that's living in the Scotch 80s all these years. I know that we've gone around to the neighbors and the neighbors changed. And so what they might have done 10 years ago, we got a whole different group of people, and I'd like to see that. And so until we have those facts, I mean, to make an allocation, I don't think would be wise of us at this time.
Sure.
Along with that, we've already arrived at a certain number, 20 to 30. I'm not sure there are 20 to 30 stories, and I'm assuming, based on what that we're going to, the first one would be roughly where?
Starting basically
at Martin Luther King.
It's basically between Martin Luther King.
And then west to Valley View.
Correct.
And they would be all along Charleston. They wouldn't be in like Scotch 80 or the other neighborhood. They'd be all along.
Correct.
And excuse me if I might interrupt, it's just the nature of getting the high from the Oakland thing. Sorry. Okay. The Project Neon is killing everything at Martin Luther King and Charleston. I mean, I don't know whether you or everybody knows what's happening. So you have to start somewhere. I mean, total destruction of everything there. So what happens when the medical school starts to put its roots down too?
We're going to put Project Neon off to build this.
You
know that?
You knew about Indians.
Well, so what I think along the same line, a couple of questions that I would like answered when we come back. We had a challenge in the past before on Fremont Street with what were called fun facts. And they weren't quite facts, they were just fun. Well, you can't have it, it's either a fact or, it's not. So I think the idea of hiring a researcher ahead of time and not doing oral history is play too white, that can get, somebody will remember something. There should be, so I think that's a critical point, as the mayor points out. We need to get the work done and ahead of time to research what we're going to do. The other concern that I have is we're starting to have different signs all over, and there's no continuity. It would be nice if we had some continuity of, so they look like the city of Las Vegas was responsible as opposed to. So I'd like to get a sense of that, and then really what the filter is. I'm not sure who are these for. If we're going to say that there was some family that lived here in 1910, okay, yeah, as opposed to the other 50 families that lived here in 19, I mean, so what's the filter for the historic fact?
Sure. And if I may respond?
Please.
Sure. All right, so just to back up to your first statement, not only would it be oral history, but it would also be research through title and deed and record searches. So we want to establish who actually lived there and who actually did not. So it'd be a combination of the two. To just address the continuity of signs, I agree with you. I'm a member of the Outside Las Vegas Foundation annual monthly trails meetings, and we're working on that in there as well, because there does need to be some continuity throughout the Las Vegas Valley. As far as the filter, it would be essentially those families that were families or persons who are attributed to playing a significant role in the history and development of Las Vegas and the Las Vegas Valley.
And we picked West Charleston as opposed to East Charleston because
West Charleston was selected because a lot of the history is slowly disappearing and slowly fading and slowly changing, and especially as this was just pointed out with Project Neon crashing through the eastern portion of the area, it was determined that West Charleston Boulevard, it would behoove the area to maintain some of its history, some of its historic context, some of its facts, and tell some of the stories through this historic highway. And this was the highway portion. The eastern portion was not actually part of the highway. I think it ended at Las Vegas Boulevard. So it was determined that
what highway we're talking about?
The Tonopah Highway.
I came down Bonanza.
Okay.
Not Charleston. I came down Bonanza. That was the U.S. highway.
Okay. It's state highway.
Well, I think we better have a researcher check that fact out. The Bonanza was, in fact, the road to Reno. I mean, you took that highway, came down to Main Street, went south, and came down Fremont Street, which at one time was 3 U.S. highways, 91, 95, and 466, the Will Rogers alternate highway. And then one went south on Las Vegas Boulevard on 5th Street, and the other one continued down Fremont out to the Boulevard Highway. I think it's a great project, and I think Charleston has a lot of history, both east and west. So I'm not sure how we arrived at the west as opposed to the east, or just doing Charleston. Seemingly that Charleston itself is an important place to recognize for its history in the community. Is there a ward difference?
You're in the Ward 1 with
Correct.
Councilwoman Tarkanian, all to Valley View, she is west, going west.
And then
She goes
east
north
of that would be Commissioner
That would be Commissioner, Councilman Coffin.
Councilman. Sorry, dated myself again with Commissioner. Thank you.
So maybe,
Just a quick, I guess one observation, going to some of Bob's comments, Ryan Arnold for the record. I guess when I look at historical markers like this, I make the assumption that it's an area that's heavily traveled by foot, that it's usually used that way, and therefore you have a marker you can look at. This area doesn't strike me as that, and maybe I'm wrong. I drive it all the time. It just doesn't seem conducive to that type of use or display. So I'm not necessarily the guy to talk to about that, but it's just an observation. The other one that I made was looking at the budget. We have over half of it in insulation. And if this is a city kind of run project, these can't be that difficult to install to where we need some expert. I'm wondering if to throw it back on the city, but maybe that's something the city should really look at. I'm sure they're more than capable of installing something like this. So just again, an observation.
well, if I could add that, Goodman here, one of the things, and I think either you or Louise pointed out, Bob, is we need to have a semblance of continuity, because I know Councilwoman Tarkanian did put a sign, a boulder up on Alta, signifying the Las Vegas Medical District, and now we have a different logo, LVMD for Medical District, and as we put up different physical signage, I think that is something that definitely this committee should look at as we go through the strategic plan. What is the design? Do we want it always changing and something different for the neighborhood, or do we want it replicated in each historical neighborhood that's designated on a project? So this is something else that's part of this ongoing plan, but from what I'm hearing too is everybody's enthusiastic about it. It doesn't mean no. It just means there's more information, and we have work to do to try and help the process along. Please.
Thank you. This is Louise Felton again. The thing that I would be looking at is also how would somebody know these exist? I mean, and it's almost like we need to have a website that has all of the historic markers, so wherever you go, that someplace it's all inventoried, so that and that's all part of the continuity on the outreach, because otherwise people will just not even.
Still up on the record, the city's Historic Preservation Commission is doing just that with a website where all the markers you can call up and press it, and it will at least give you some more details on it. It may not talk to you, but it may just be able to give you some more detail. Do we need a motion to obey? January 25th, 2017. What did I say? 24th? I thought I meant.
Election day.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
There's a second. All in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Sorry, that's the drawing board, but at least you got time to come up with concepts, and how you're going to hire this wonderful human being.
Sounds good, thanks.
It's wonderful that we have retained the services of Campbell there. I'm sitting there going, well, all right. We will now go on to agenda item 11. We have a grant request by Jerry Walker, Director, City of Las Vegas Operations and Maintenance, in the amount of $140,500 to be used to save the iconic Blue Angel sign.
Thank you, Mayor. Jerry Walker, Director of Operations and Maintenance. I believe everybody should have a budget photo of the possible location and some background.
Correct.
I'm sorry?
We have lots.
It certainly, it recently came to the city's attention that the property owner, which is the Mary Bartzis Group, is ready to develop some vacant parcels at this location, including the one that used to have the Blue Angel Motel. They have offered to the city to donate this with the request that we try and place it in the Five Points area. This donation request is donation offer is about 6 weeks old. We've been looking into possible options because I hate to pick this up and then haul it someplace and store it where it sits forgotten until the arms are broken off or other damages occur. And so we would like to place this now. The only possible location in the Five Points area, if you will look at the photo, you will see a triangular median island. That is at the junction of Fremont and Charleston. There is a bus stop there. This is a problematic location. Both Fremont and Charleston are NDOT right-of-way, so there's that concern. The Blue Angel stands right now probably close to 40 feet ground to top, and so it will be an engineering challenge to stabilize this and put a foundation in it in such a manner that it can withstand any wind loads, other issues. We will need to protect it from errant car accidents, and there is a site visibility problem at this location where eastbound Fremont flips a semi-U-turn there and goes to westbound Charleston. And so the reason the bus stop is restricted to the first half or the northern half of that island is because of site visibility restrictions. So we currently have a consultant engaged, and he is checking to see if he can come up with a design for this location. And if so, to meet site visibility restriction requirements. If so, where would the statue go? How deep a foundation do I need to put in? What are my utility conflicts? One other sidebar on this, the group has offered us not just the Blue Angel itself, but some additional signs on that location. There is a Paradise Motel sign across the street. There are two Las Vegas Motel signs on the same parcel, very nice. And then there is a Blue Angel Motel sign which has a crescent-shaped moon on it, which is also very nice. There are also on this photo the banner signs that go with the Blue Angel. Now these are going to be very, very, very difficult to install, and they're so wide we couldn't possibly get them into a median island location. So we're still working our way through on the various problems at this location. The first thing I need to do is put a contract together between the city and the Bartzis Group in conjunction with this donation and put the details in that contract. Concurrent with that, I've got a vendor looking at the site to see what it takes to get the Blue Angel down. Again, this will be a crane activity. I'm very concerned, given the nature of this sculpture, with possible damages to it, and so it's not something we would try and pick up. Once I've got it out of the ground, I'll have to cut the foundations off 2 feet down, I'll have to put the other signs up, we'll have to transport it either to a temporary storage location or transport it to the repair shop, restoration. The sculpture itself will need to be restored, and then if we want to make it turn, we will need to install a whole new engine, all new electronics. It does currently turn in the wind, which is a good sign, so the bearings are still good. In conjunction with this sign on the triangular-shaped median island, we would also look to put the blue crescent moon, the blue angel crescent moon motel sign up, if it will fit. And so again, a variety of technical problems for us. I've been here since 1988, talking with individuals, and so I'm not a resident, but talking with, or permanent resident. I certainly consider myself a resident of Las Vegas. However, I don't have the history to understand this sign, but my understanding is it's a beloved, iconic figure. Everybody that grew up looking at the Blue Angel speaks fondly of it, and so we would like to take advantage of this opportunity, save this piece, make sure it stays in Las Vegas, and right now, while we're in the process, we'd like to go ahead and see if we can install it on this median island. If not, if the complications are too much to address, we will instead pull all of these units off, put them into storage, and put them into a safe storage so that they don't be damaged while we wait for a different project where we can place them.
Wow. Is lighting included in it and upkeep?
We'll maintain that. I'll go ahead and speak for operations and maintenance now. We'll maintain that as part of our operating practices.
And the lighting, if this were to be approved, the lighting?
I don't believe the statue has lighting. The Blue Angel sign, the crescent-shaped moon, has lighting. I did not plan on uplighting. This should be a fairly well-lit intersection. Certainly uplighting would be something we could add, but before I would consider that, I'd like to make it turn again.
And I'd like to ask Ms. Ortiz, could you come up, please, and announce yourself, and then anything I know Councilman Coffin might
Good afternoon, Mayor Felipe Ortiz. Thank you, Mayor, and members of the Commission. The reason it's coming about this way is a pretty simple one and a very basic one. The Bartz's LLC has gone to planning, city council, and that parcel now is split into 3 parcels. And so they are moving very quickly to develop an O'Reilly Auto Parts, a huge 4 drive-through Taco Bell, and then something else. And that's happening by January. So our biggest fear is that those companies are going to run into it, start drilling, knock it down, and damage it between now and January. Otherwise, it would have gone the traditional route with the Neon Museum and so on. So that's number one. Secondly, there is a request. This is an iconic monument that they want to stay in the same area.